friends. The last time you saw me, I was out on my porch. This time I'm in my dining room. Do you see that fancy painting behind me? So that painting was made by Mr. Bob's brother, and it is modeled after a painting by a man named Monet. So Monet was a famous painter, and one of his most famous paintings is water lilies. And so that painting behind me reminds me of that. And it has that golden frame, so it makes me feel like it's a little extra fancy for our dining room. Today I'm going to read you some stories that are about different workers that you might find in your neighborhood. We talked about dentists the other day, and so today I have some guessing stories, or one guessing story, and then a story about a library. So let's start with our hello song. Hello everybody, how do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Hello everybody, how do you do? God loves you today. So my first story is called Clothesline Clues to Jobs That People Do. So this is a guessing book. So you'll have to think about different workers that might be in your neighborhood, and maybe you can do some of the guessing with me. So it's called Clothesline Clues, and it's written by two people, Catherine Heiling and Deborah Hembrook, and it's illustrated by Andy Robert Davies. Oh, the cover looks the same on the inside. In my classroom in the yellow room, we also like to look at the back of the book to see if it matches the front. Let's look at the back. Does that match? It doesn't that time. Now, we do see red letters here and red in the back, so that matches a little bit, but it's not exactly the same picture. Clothesline clues to jobs that people do. All right, I see a neighborhood. That's a good way to start the story. Look at the clotheslines and see every clue. Who uses these things for the jobs that they do? So if you did your laundry and you used your washing machine on a day where it's nice and cool and breezy outside, you could hang up all of your clothes and they would dry outside in the sunshine. You wouldn't need to use your dryer on that day. Uniform and cap, an invite for you. A big bag of letters. What job does she do? Let's see. What's your guess? You're right. She is a mail carrier. All right, let's get clues for another job. A milk pail, a straw hat, overalls in blue, a plaid shirt, a bandana. What job does he do? I think the rooster is a clue. Let's see. Did you say farmer? You were right. He is a farmer. Oh, I see the farmer and the mail carrier. I think she's delivering mail to his house. Oven mitts, an apron, a recipe for stew, a puffy hat, and a whisk. What job does he do? Maybe chef? What else could the job be? Oh, he is a chef. It looks like he's making something, maybe an apple pie, so he could be a baker too. Oh, there's the farmer. There's the mail carrier. Here's the chef working in his kitchen. A smock, a beret, and brushes. Paints of every hue. Canvas, an easel. What job does he do? Ooh, he is an artist. Wow. An artist uses a room called a studio. Do you think this is his art studio? Look who's coming. The mail carrier. There she is again. Coveralls, a tool belt, work gloves and glue, safety glasses, saw. What job does she do? See a birdhouse. Let me see. Do you have a guess? She is a carpenter. Oh, a builder or a carpenter. It looks like she's sawing wood right inside her workshop. Who do you see in the background? Mail carrier. There she is again. Heavy pants, a helmet, Wide suspenders too. A rescue coat, a long hose. What does she do? You know this one, don't you? She is a firefighter. There's our mail carrier and our firefighter. You know what I like about this story? This story shows us that girls or boys could do all these jobs. A lot of times we see boys as firefighters, but girls can be firefighters too. It's nice that you could be whatever you want. When you get bigger, you can pick your job. Oh, I couldn't do this job though. I'm not smart enough. Spacesuit and jetpack, star charts to review, flight gloves and moon boots. What job does she do? She is an astronaut. Oh boy, you have to be so smart and work so hard to be an astronaut. I'm very proud of her for doing that. All right, let's see. Here's our carpenter, our artist, our baker or chef, our mail carrier, the farmer. They're all walking right towards the astronaut. These clothes are all clues to jobs people do. Is one of these jobs just right for you? This big banner says launch party. So they all came and they waited for the astronaut to blast off. What do we say during blast off? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. All right, now I have a game where you have to find a trick-or-treat bucket. Isn't that kind of silly for me to talk about trick-or-treating? But the nice thing about talking about trick-or-treating is it helps us play a little game together, which I like. So I have some turkeys. They're dressed up to be different kinds of workers. This turkey is dressed up to be a detective who's going to solve a mystery. This turkey is dressed up to be a mail carrier. We saw a mail carrier in our book. Oh, this was in our book too. Farmer. We have a farmer turkey. This is pretty silly to have these turkeys dressed up. Oh, I didn't see this one in our book. But here's a doctor. All right, how about, we saw this, firefighter. That was in our book today. And, oh boy, I love this one. Pizza delivery driver. Delicious. All right, now I have this little treat bucket, trick or treat bucket, and I'm going to hide it behind one of the turkeys. Now we can't say it's behind the turkey because that would be all of them. So we have to say which one it's behind, but we have to talk about their jobs. Doctor, firefighter, pizza delivery driver, detective, mail carrier, and farmer. All right, I'm going to turn the board so you don't see where I'm going to hide it. All right, I'm getting it hidden behind something. In my class, the yellow room, kids always try to see if it's peeking out behind one of the cards, and that's the one they guess. All right, do you see it peeking out behind any cards? I did a good job hiding it then. Turkeys, turkeys, looking for a treat. Which turkey has it? Let's take a peek. All right, what's going to be our first guess? How about firefighter? Let's see if it's behind the firefighter. Nope. Let's guess again. Turkey, turkey, looking for a treat. Which turkey has it? Let's take a peek. How about detective? Not behind the detective. What about the pizza delivery driver? Let me see. Oh no, I don't have many left. What's your next guess? Think about it. Maybe you'll be right. Let me try doctor. Oh, let's see. Not behind the doctor. Okay, there's two left. Mail carrier and farmer. What's your guess? Behind farmer. Did anyone say farmer? If you did, you were right. You got it. It was behind the farmer. Okay, now I have another story. This story is a little bit longer. It's called Library Lion. So if you think you need a break, you could hit pause, take a little break from story time, and then you can come back to finish this last story, and then I have one more game to play. So this one is called Library Lion, and it's written by Michelle Knutson, illustrated by Kevin Hawks. And there's a little sticker here, and it says, a New York Times bestseller. Ooh, That means it's a book that lots and lots of people liked, and a lot of people bought the book. All right. Now, I always like to look on the inside cover to see the picture. Here's a lion walking around. Let's see if that's also in the back. Are you ready? Now I see the fence in the front and in the back, but this time I see a lion statue. This one to me looks like a real lion. So the pictures are similar, but maybe it gives us a clue of what's going to happen in the book. One day a lion came to the library. He walked right past the circulation desk and he walked right up to the stacks. So here's the checkout desk. The stacks are all of the shelves of books. There he goes. Mr. McBee ran down the hall to the head librarian's office. Miss Merriweather, he called. No running, said Miss Merriweather, and she didn't even look up. But there's a lion, said Mr. McBee, in the library. Is he breaking any rules? Said Miss Merriweather. She was very particular about rule breaking. Well, no, said Mr. McBee. Not really. Then let him be. The lion wandered all around the library. He sniffed the card catalog. Oh, that's where they have cards to tell the names of all the books. He rubbed his head against the new book collection. Then he padded over to the story corner and he went to sleep. No one was sure what to do. There weren't any rules about lions in the library. Soon it was story time. There weren't any rules about lions at story time either. The story lady seemed a little nervous, but she read out the first book's title in a good, clear voice. The lion looked up, and the story lady kept reading. The lion stayed for the next story and the story after that. He waited for another story, but the children began to walk away. Story hour's over, said a little girl. It's time to go. The lion looked at the children, and he looked at the story lady. He looked at the books, and then he roared. Miss Merriweather came running out of her office. Who is making that noise? She demanded. It's the lion, said Mr. McBee. Mrs. Merriweather marched right over to the lion. If you cannot be quiet, you will have to leave. Those are the rules. The lion kept roaring. He sounded sad. The little girl tugged Miss Merriweather's dress. If he promises to be quiet, can he come back for story time tomorrow? The lion stopped roaring and he looked at Miss Merriweather. Miss Merriweather looked back. Then she said, Yes, a nice, quiet lion would certainly be allowed to come back for story time tomorrow. Hooray! Shouted the children. I don't know if I'd want a lion in my story time. The next day the lion came back. You are early, said Miss Merriweather. Story hour is not until 3 o'clock. The lion didn't move. Very well, said Miss Merriweather. You may as well make yourself useful. And so she sent him to dust off the encyclopedia books until it was time for story hour. Look what he's using for a duster. His tail. That was a good idea. The next day, the lion came back earlier again. This time, Miss Merriweather asked him to lick all the envelopes. Wow, that's pretty handy. He's got that wet tongue. How do I know that this lion is a boy? Do you have an idea? A boy lion has that big mane of fur or hair. A female or a girl lion doesn't have that. So we know that this is a boy lion. Let's see if he does any more kind of work for Miss Merriweather. Soon the lion began to do things without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias, he licked the envelopes, he let the kids stand on his back to reach books on the highest shelf, and then he curled up in the story corner to wait for story hour to begin. At first, the people in the library were nervous about the lion. But soon they got used to having him around. In fact, he seemed quite suited for the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy place for kids to sit at story hour, and he never roared in the library anymore. What a helpful lion, people said, and they patted his soft head as he walked by. How did we ever get along without him? Mr. McBee scowled when he heard that. They had always gotten along fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand rules. Lions did not belong in the library. One day, after he had dusted all the encyclopedias, he licked all the envelopes, he helped all the small children, the lion padded down to Miss Merriweather's office to see what was left to do. There was still some time before story hour. Hello, Lion, said Miss Merriweather. I know something you can do. You can help me bring a book back into the stacks for me. I just need to get it off this shelf. Miss Merriweather stood on her tiptoes, and she stretched out her fingers. I'm almost there, she said. Then Miss Merriweather stretched a little too far. Ouch, said Miss Merriweather, and she did not get up. Oh boy, does it look like she fell down? Mr. McBee, she called after a minute. Mr. McBee! But Mr. McBee was at the desk. He couldn't hear her calling. Lion, said Miss Merriweather, please go get Mr. McBee. And so the lion ran down the hall. No running, said Miss Merriweather. The lion put his big front paws up on the desk, and he looked at Mr. McBee. Go away, Lion, said Mr. McBee. I'm busy. And the lion started to whine. He pointed his nose down the hall towards Miss Merriweather's office. Mr. McBee ignored him. Finally, the lion did the only thing he could think of. He looked at Mr. McBee right in the eye, and then he opened his mouth very loud, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in his life. Roar! Mr. McBee gasped. You are not being quiet, he said to the lion. You are breaking the rules. Mr. McBee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The lion didn't follow him. He had broken the rules. He knew what that meant. He hung his head and he walked right out the door. Mr. McBee did not notice. Miss Merriweather, he called as he walked. Miss Merriweather, the lion broke the rules. The lion broke the rules. Oh, he seems kind of angry about that. He burst into Mrs. Merriweather's office. She was not in her chair. Miss Merriweather, he said. Sometimes, said Miss Merriweather, there is a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now please go call the doctor. I think I've broken my arm. Mr. McBee ran to call the doctor. No running, Miss Merriweather called after him. The next day, things were back to normal, almost. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a cast. The doctor told her not to work too hard. I will have my lion to help me, Miss Merriweather thought. But the lion did not come to the library. At 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked over to the story corner. The story lady was just beginning a story for the children, but the lion was not there. People in the library kept looking up from the books and from their computer screens. They were hoping to see a familiar face, but the lion did not come that day. The lion did not come the next day either, or the day after that. One evening, Mr. McBee stopped by Miss Merriweather's office on his way out. Can I do anything for you before I go, Miss Merriweather? He said. No, thank you, said Miss Merriweather, and she was looking out the window. Her voice was quiet, even for the library. Mr. McBee frowned and he walked away. He thought there was something he could do for Miss Merriweather after all. What do you think Miss Merriweather really wants? Finally, he circled his way all back to the library. Oh, I skipped a page. I'm so sorry. Mr. McBee left the library, but he did not go home. He walked around the neighborhood. He looked under cars. He looked behind bushes. He looked in backyards and trash cans, and he looked in tree houses. Finally, Mr. McBee circled his way back to the library. The lion was sitting outside looking through the glass. "Hello, lion," said Mr. McBee. The lion did not turn around. "I thought you might know that there's a new rule at the library," said Mr. McBee. "No roaring unless you have a very good reason. Maybe if you were trying to help a friend who's been hurt." The lion's ears twitched. He turned around. Mr. McBee was already walking away. The next day, Mr. McBee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "What is it, Mr. McBee?" said Miss Merriweather in her new, sad, quiet voice. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there is a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and she ran down the hall. Mr. McBee smiled. "No running," he called after her. Miss Merriweather didn't listen. Sometimes there was a very good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Are they letting all of the kids yell and cheer? They sure are. They're so happy to see that lion back at the library. Oh, that is a long story, but guess what? I like that story a lot. I can't imagine ever seeing a library with a lion inside. All right, I have one more game before I say goodbye to you. And this is a game about a library. So we're going to, let me see if I can make it. There we go. I want to make sure you can see it. So I have a little poster, and my poster has shelves where books belong. And each poster, or each spot on my poster has a letter. So they're in order of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Wait a minute. That's not the letter I, it's the letter P. There must be something special because there's that letter P there. I kind of like that. All right, so I have some books and I need to put the books on the library shelf. So I have to find the letter that each book starts with. So I have a book, you might know this book, Corduroy. And what letter does corduroy start with? C for corduroy. Okay, so I need to put the corduroy book on the shelf by the C for corduroy spot. All right, now I have the letter P. Oh, I know why I have the letter P, because it's one of my favorite stories for preschool. Preschool to the rescue. All right, here we go. Preschool to the rescue, and it has the letter P. We know where that is, right at the bottom. Ooh, I had to make sure we had our favorite storybook. Okay, let's see. Ooh, The Gingerbread Man. So in the library, we skip the word the, and I look for the G for gingerbread. Where's that? Ooh, right down here at the bottom. All right, got a few more books to put on the shelf. Ooh, Danny and the Dinosaur. I see D for Danny, D for dinosaur. I have to put it on the shelf with the letter D. Okay, I have some letters left. A, B, E, F, and H. All right, I have a book about an elephant named Elmer. Do you see that? E for Elmer. All right, E for Elmer, E for elephant. Okay, oh boy. Ooh, you know this book. Brown bear, what do you see? B for brown. Oh, it's hard to see that B. It's so little. B for brown and B for bear. Let's put it on the shelf with the letter B. Okay, here we go. Look at this cute hedgehog. This story is called Apple Trouble. A for apple. That's right at the beginning. So we have A, B, C, D, E. Okay, I've got two more. F. All right. This book is called A Fish Out of Water. So there is an A, but we don't use that A. We look at the next letter. F for fish. All right, A Fish Out of Water. I hope you've read that book. It's a good one. And my last book must start with the letter H. Here we go. H for Harold. Harold and the Purple Crayon. You did it. You filed all of the books on the bookshelf. I wonder if you know any of those stories. I bet you do. All right, friends, it was nice to spend this time with you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.